Imagine a man so consumed by his own anger that he couldn't see the damage he was leaving behind. Not in the world around him, but in the people who loved him most. This is the story of Thomas, a farmer from rural Ohio. A hardworking man, a proud man, but a man with a fire inside him that nobody, not even he, knew how to put out. And it took one old wooden fence to show him the truth about himself that changed everything. Thomas grew up poor. The kind of poor where dinner wasn't always guaranteed, and the heat sometimes got cut off in January. His father worked 3 jobs and still came home with nothing to show for it. So Thomas made himself a promise at 15 years old. I will never be helpless. I will never be weak. And he kept that promise. By his 30s, Thomas had built a small but thriving farm in the Ohio countryside. Corn, soybeans, a few cattle. He owned every acre. He paid his debts. He provided. But there was a cost nobody talks about. When a man spends his whole life fighting to survive, sometimes he forgets to stop fighting, even when the war is over. Thomas had a temper, a short fuse. A man would cut him off in traffic, he'd be angry for 3 hours. A deal at the grain co-op would fall through, he'd take it out on his wife at dinner. His workers made a mistake, he'd erupt in a way that left the whole farm silent for days. He wasn't a bad man. He was a wounded man who had never learned what to do with pain. So he turned it into rage. On one August evening, after a brutal week, a broken tractor, a bad harvest estimate, and an argument with his oldest son, Thomas sat alone on his porch. His wife, Carol, had taken the kids to her mother's house. The house was empty. The fields were quiet. And for the first time in years, Thomas sat with himself, and he didn't like what he found. He picked up the phone and called the one person he always called when things got heavy: his father. Now, his father, a quiet man named Earl, had seen everything: Vietnam, poverty, loss. And yet Earl had never once raised his voice in anger. Not once. Thomas had never understood it. He used to think his father was just weak. Thomas said, "Dad, I don't know how to stop being so angry all the time." There was a long pause on the line. Earl said, "Come see me this weekend, son. I've got something to show you." Take that Saturday. Thomas drove 40 minutes to his father's property, a modest home with a long wooden fence running along the front yard. The fence was old, worn gray by decades of Ohio winters. Earl was waiting on the porch with a coffee can full of nails and a hammer. He handed them to Thomas and said, "Every time you lose your temper this week, every time you snap, every time you say something cruel, every time anger controls you instead of you controlling it, I want you to drive one nail into that fence." Thomas looked at the fence, then back to his father. "That's it? That's your advice?" Earl just smiled. "Come back next Saturday." Thomas thought the whole thing was ridiculous, but out of respect, he did it. Monday, he argued with a supplier. Nail. Tuesday, he yelled at his farmhand for parking in the wrong spot. Nail. Wednesday, he hung up the phone on Carol during an argument. 2 nails. Thursday, he caught himself and stopped. No nail. Friday, one more argument. Nail. He came back the following Saturday with 6 nails in the fence. Earl looked at them. then handed Thomas the hammer again, claw side up this time. Now, pull them out. Thomas pulled each nail out, one by one. Then Earl walked up slowly, ran his hand across the wood, and said, "Thomas, the nails are gone, but look at the fence." Thomas looked. The holes were still there. 6 small, dark holes in the wood. Permanent. Unfillable. Earl put his hand on his son's shoulder and said, "Son, your words and your anger are like these nails. You can apologize. You can make it right. You can pull the nail out. But the hole stays. Every time you explode at Carol, there's a hole. Every time you humiliate one of your workers, there's a hole. Every time your kids watch you lose control, there's a hole. You can't sand those holes away. You can't paint over them. They become part of the fence. Forever." Thomas didn't speak. He just stood there, staring at the wood. Something changed in Thomas that morning. Not overnight. Real change never happens overnight. But a seed was planted. He started pausing before reacting. He started asking himself, is this nail worth driving? Some days he failed. Some days the anger won. But slowly, week by week, the nails in the fence started getting fewer. And the ones he didn't drive, those became the victories he was most proud of. 6 months later, he stood in his kitchen watching his youngest daughter laugh at the dinner table, and Carol caught his eye and smiled, the kind of smile she hadn't given him in years. That night, he called Earl. "Dad, I think I finally understand." "I know," said Earl. "I could hear it in your voice 3 weeks ago." Here's what Thomas's story is really about and why it matters to you right now. Anger is not strength. Anger is a signal. It's your inner world telling you something is unresolved, something is hurting, something needs attention. But when you fire that signal like a weapon at the people around you, you trade a moment of release for a permanent scar in a relationship. The people who love you most, they keep score. Not because they're petty, but because human beings remember how they were made to feel. And over time, too many holes in the fence, and the fence starts to fall. You can be a strong person. You can be a driven, disciplined, powerful individual without burning the people closest to you in the process. Ask yourself honestly, how many holes are in your fence right now? It's not too late to stop driving nails, but the best time to stop is today. If this story hit something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not to call them out, but because sometimes the right story at the right time changes a person's life. This is Wisdom Injected, and we'll see you in the next one.